My name is Barb Truax. I've been living in Lindsay since 1949. I came to Lindsay because my mother had a job here, and we moved. And I went to high school here, went for 5 years at high school. And then I left and went in training as a nurse. Then I went to Peterborough for nursing school. Then I finally came back in 1959 with my husband, who was from Lindsay, and I've been here ever since. In my nursing career, I was privileged to be a student nurse at the time when three very important developments were made in the medical field. One was the availability of Milltown, an antidepressant. Previously to Milltown, more agitated patients were always lying in bed, and they were surrounded with wet sheets in order to keep them calm. With the advent of Milltown, these patients all were able to be brought off the beds, rehabilitated, and walked around. So it was a huge advantage. And I happened to be at the Whitby, Ontario Hospital at the time when this all went on. So I was able to see that firsthand, which was really a privilege. The second thing was when the Salk vaccine was given, I happened to be at the hospital for sick children. And I was there one summer, and then I was there 2 summers later. And you could see the benefit because they used to have charts on the wall, and for the deaths from paralysis, you had red dots, and for people who were incapacitated, they had black dots. And over the course of the 3 years, after 3 years, almost all of the red dots were gone. And very few additional treatment. Then when I was in my last year of training, was the onset of antibiotics. And we had a 17-year-old patient who had meningococcal meningitis, and they had to fly the antibiotic from the States to the Peterborough Civic Hospital. So you were able to see somebody recover from that illness rather than see them die. So that was really a wonderful thing to be, exposed to. I was an operating room nurse at the Ross Memorial Hospital, and I also worked for a psychiatrist, very eccentric psychiatrist, and I ended up my career in doing palliative care nursing, which was really wonderful because you were a one-on-one situation with the patient, and you got to know them, and it was a really nursing experience because you did everything to try and alleviate any pain that they had or any symptoms that they had. I had the privilege of being on the Lindsay Public School Board. That was the time when both the elementary panel had its own board, and the secondary school had its own board. And there used to be competition between the two of them. For what reason, it boggles my mind. But anyway, there seemed to be. I had the privilege of being with George Inrig. He was a popular lawyer in town. But he also was opposite political stripe to myself. And he used to be either trying to change your ways, or he was telling me off about something that had gone on. So it was quite animated. On that board, I was the chair of finance, and I was also the only woman, which happened quite frequently in my younger years. I was also, on that board was also a former mayor, which was Joe Holton. And so you were with kind of lofty people, but wonderful education. introduction to the community, because they had never had an election for years until I got on there, and then all of a sudden there were about 12 people that wanted to take the 6 spots. So I had to run in the municipal election for the school board, and it turned out that it was at the same time that my husband was running as a councillor for the town of Lindsay. So we had kind of a dual campaign, and it was really kind of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole experience. My husband went on to become a councillor a second time, and then at that time he became the mayor of the town of Lindsay, and then the mayor of the city of Kawartha Lakes. But I really enjoyed public life. You met all kinds of wonderful people. And everywhere you went, my husband, we would go in the door as a couple, and then he would take off to work the room, as he called it. And then he would look at me and say, well, I'm doing half, you could do the other half. So it was really kind of fun, all the places that you went and the people that you met. And from there, I kind of just went off in every kind of direction. I said, as you get older, of course, you touch so many other things. I was with the Academy Theatre Board for 11 years, and that was interesting as well, because the time I was on the board, there was a summer theatre. So I became a rep, the Academy Theatre's rep on the summer theatre as well. So you got a taste of the production that was going on, and also the administration of the board. I joined the art gallery board later, and that was really very interesting. I didn't know very many artists, so all these things were just wonderful learning experiences to get to know all the people and the different abilities they had with the arts. I was on the board of governors of the Sir Sanford Fleming College, and at a very interesting time as well, because the Brayley campus in Peterborough was not built yet, and so the Frost campus hadn't been built either. But in the course of my time on there, they started the Frost campus, and that was another interesting thing, because everything was in development, and the colleges of applied arts and sciences had just been struck, and so everything that you did was new and different. It involved a bit more travel and that kind of thing, so you sort of spread your wings a little further with that. I also was on the founding board for the Kawartha Lakes Food Source, and that was a bit of a challenge, because the Rotary Club was instrumental with that. Everybody had food cupboards all over the area, so they did a survey, and the survey indicated that what they needed was an umbrella group that would bring in food, so that all these little food banks had adequate food to give to their clients. So that board was struck in 14 years ago, and it has no public funding of any sort. So you had to raise every cent that you ever needed. But it's really quite a thriving board now, and it's a good organization. I was with the Women's Guild at the Academy Theatre as well, and they were a group of ladies that supported the board of the foundation, and we used to hold 2 or 3 fundraisers each year to help support the theatre. One was lots of fun, because it was out at Pleasant Point. We would have a wine and cheese, and we would have it at 4 or 5 different cottages along the way. So it was a very pleasant way to spend an afternoon, a Sunday afternoon. It was disbanded because of the usual thing, people not wanting to take the offices of the organization. I was on the Historical Society board, but that was way back when they were housed in an old building on Kent Street West, and they had a really neat little cabin in the back of that area, but it was never open in the winter because there was no heat in the building. And things were pretty primitive there, but they did house tours and that kind of thing. People used to drop sewing machines and everything off outside the door, but it was really pretty primitive in comparison to what it is today. I do an awful lot of work with St. Paul's Church, and that's been over the course of about 50 years. So at St. Paul, I've been at St. Paul's since we moved to Lindsay in 1949. When I arrived, there was a minister there by the name of Mr. Cross, and he was really wonderful with the youth because he used to have everybody over to the rectory for popcorn and whatever. Very, very, and so it was a wonderful introduction to the church because I came from Peterborough and we didn't have anything like that there, so it was really interesting. There have been a number of long-term ministers there, but over the course of my association with the church, we've had a number of things that I've been instrumental in. Has been we started a mystery dinner theater 28 years ago, and we thought maybe it might last for 2 or 3 years. And as I say, we just had our 27th one, and they really seem to be quite popular. But of course, we get a license and we serve wine. So I think maybe that might be part of the popularity as well. The parishioners become the actors, and we import a few people from outside the church. We have one fellow by the name of Ian McKechnie. He's kind of half Anglican. And he was a very, very interesting actor that we had with him. But we've had a lot of funny things because when people take on these roles, another side of them seems to come out. Things that you didn't even know that they would do. So they've been lots of fun. We've started Spring Thaw. Now it was started to welcome the people back in the spring. It came from Florida back home. But the reason for it starting was that when we were running the 175th anniversary of the church, we needed some money to run it, and we were going to be a couple of $1,000s short. So the dinner provided, that's why we had the dinner, was to provide the money so that the birthday celebration wasn't going to cost the church any money. They also have a wonderful strawberry supper there, and when I moved back to Lindsay with my husband in 1959, he was employed at the Lindsay Collegiate Institute. There was a rotary pool in the back part of the lot, and it had been built by the Rotarians, and it was manned by and all the washing and that needed to be done with regard to the quality of the water was all done by Rotarians, and they hired me to run the swimming program there. They wanted somebody. They always had somebody that was out of school for the summer, and then they would go back to school the next year, and they had no continuity. So they wanted somebody that would stay with it so that they could train and provide their own instructors. So I was there for 5 years, and it got so that the teenagers would go off and they'd become qualified instructors, and then they would come back and be employed at the pool. So that was the purpose of having someone that was, I guess, older at the time. And that pool was built so that the kids wouldn't swim in the Skewgog River. because it wasn't safe. And it had no heat, so we used to have the seniors in the morning because they could stand the cold, and we'd go to the beginners at noon hour with them. I did not do any lifeguarding. That was a different part of the program completely. I went to Lindsay Collegiate Institute, L.C.I, and the school I went to is no longer there. There's an L.C.I there, but it's been renovated so many times that none of the original building is there. It was kind of interesting. There was an arena on Russell Street where Value Mart is now, and they had a second floor there. They used to have teen dances there all the time, and you used to put the St. Paul's Church across the road nose out of joint a lot, because when they were doing things on Sunday, they didn't like it at the church very much. It was long before that. One interesting thing about around that time was that when TV first started, Earl Kennedy at his house had a great big huge TV tower, and we had the privilege of being able to go up there and watch TV. It was always kind of funny because you'd go to see the Ed Sullivan Show, and you'd sit for 20 minutes watching the test pattern before the show came on. And of course, invariably it would be snowy. He also had the first TV, as you can gather. But then they began to crop up with various people who wanted to watch the hockey, the Leafs play hockey. There was a wonderful post office on the main street, right now where the dollar store is. It's an empty lot in the dollar store. It was a wonderful old building, and made of granite stone, and had a wonderful bell tower in the top. And it was, they had cages sort of, when you went in to deal with it, people were behind these screened cages. Of course, it was the same thing when you went to the liquor store too. You had to go in, and there was a wall between you, and there's just a little. It reminds you of where you go to the bank in foreign countries, and you slide the money in under the window. That's how you used to get your booze too. I think Lindsay is a wonderful place for people to move. We're being accused lots of times of being a seniors residence, but it's a wonderful place to raise children. We've got a wonderful swimming facility. There's squash courts down there. Anything to do with athletics, we pretty well have covered. We have lawn bowling, all that kind of thing and a lot of kids are starting with the lawn bowling too. The Boys and Girls Club, there's a beautiful facility with all kinds of, they've got the gymnastics in there. I think you could move. And what is really good is there's a wonderful arts community here. We have a wonderful museum. We have a fantastic art gallery. It's not very big, and it needs a new home, but they do quality work. And of course, we have the Academy Theatre, which has terrific performances all year round. So there's something for just about everybody here. We have the Sir Sandford Fleming College, but they call it Sandford Fleming, and there they have a first-class cartography program and wonderful horticultural arborists. So I think it just about covers everything that you would need. Trails, beautiful trails. So I think you're only an hour and a half away from Toronto. So I just think it's a fantastic place to live.